open this extraordinary public meeting of the Island Council of St. Eustatius for today, Thursday, December 18th, 2025. I would like to welcome all who are present here in the hall, as well as those listening by way of local radio, as well as the social media page of Statia Government. I would like to, on behalf of the Council, extend apology for the late start of this meeting, and that is due to the Central Committee meeting that has just concluded with the exact same agenda. I invite us all to please stand in respect of the local anthem. You may be seated. Agenda point 2 is announcements. This is where the members of the Island Council have the opportunity to make any special announcements they deem important. So I look to you, the members of the Island Council, if there are any announcements. Members, I continue immediately with Agenda 3, which is the setting of the agenda. I will first read the agenda as was published on the website and social media page of the Island Council as well as Statia Government. And the agenda as published reads as follows. 1, opening. 2, announcements. 3, setting of the agenda. 4, third implementation report and CFT reaction. 5, third budget amendment and CFT reaction. 6, announcements of the Executive Council and Governor per Article 49 and 50 of the Regulation of Order of the Island Council. 7, closing. I look to the members of the Island Council. I understand through the Registrar's Office that there are 2 motions that will be presented. So I would want to propose the following, that we make agenda point 6, motion expansion Island and Executive Council. It's a motion put forward by the PLP faction, agenda 6. And my proposal is that the agenda 7 becomes the motion refocusing the well-being and rights of a secondary education students, which is a motion put forward by the Democratic Party faction in the Island Council. Agenda 8, amendments, and 9, closing. Can the members of the Island Council agree? You wanted to do a point of order, Mr. Van Putten?
Yes, yes. You made mention of the 2 motions as far as the one of the PLP is concerned. It's not just a motion, but we also want to make a contribution discussion with regards to the decision of the Permanent Committee for Kingdom Relation that led the faction to present this motion. So I just don't want it to be a motion that it be vote, but that the members be able to, if they so desire, to have a discussion prior to the vote on the motion. Thank you very much.
Councilman Van Putten, will it satisfy you if the topic is named Decision, Permanent Committee, Kingdom Relations, and Supporting Motion, Expansion, Island, and Executive Councils? Thank you. I will now read the agenda as it will be. 1, opening. 2, announcements. 3, setting of the agenda. 4, third implementation report and CFT reaction. 5, third budget amendment and CFT reaction. 6, announcements of the Executive Council and, 6, decision, Permanent Committee for Kingdom Relations and Supporting Motion, Expansion, Islands, and Executive Councils. 7, motion, refocusing the well-being and the rights of our secondary education students. 8, announcements of the Executive Council and Island Governor per Article 49 and 50 of the Regulations of Order of the Island Council, and 9, closing. I herewith ratify the agenda as amended. Agenda point 4 is the third implementation report and reaction of the CFT. We will now move to this agenda, which is the third implementation and the accompanying advice from the CFT. This is a financial document which outlines the fiscal position for the months of July, August, and September. Given that the Central Committee meeting was held a few moments ago, and most of this information has already been discussed, I now look to the Commissioner responsible for the portfolio, and he's supported here today by his Director as well as his Unit Manager, to ask whether there is anything further to add to this agenda point. And I will look to the members of the Island Council to indicate whether there is a need for a debate on this item or whether we can proceed directly to the vote. Members of the Island Council? Smith, vote. Then I will immediately go over into the members of the Island Council making known their vote. The order, want to do this by acclamation? Yeah. Agenda point 4 is herewith carried by acclamation. Agenda point 5 is the third budget amendment and reaction of the CFT. Again, the third budget amendment for 2025. This document outlines the changes that need to be made to the budget based on what actually occurred during the year. In simple terms, it updates the budget so that it reflects the real income and expenditures, and it also allows us to allocate funds for items that were not originally budgeted. As with the previous agenda point 4, the Central Committee meeting held earlier this morning already covered most of this information. I therefore look to the Commissioner of Finance to ask whether there's anything further to add regarding this amendment. And I once again look to the members of the Council whether there's a need to debate the fifth agenda point or whether they can proceed directly to a vote. Commissioner Merkman, it regards agenda point 5. You briefly were on the outside. It regards agenda point 5, third budget amendment and the reaction of the CFT. Commissioner supported here by his Director and Unit Manager. I will give the Commissioner the opportunity if there's anything else to add to this agenda point, after which I will ask the members of the Island Council if there's a need for a debate, considering this was discussed extensively in the just concluded Central Committee meeting. I get,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Actually, what transpired is this: we had a discussion surrounding it, but we didn't discuss the numbers, which is basically, as was said, it's just a semantic trying to get the numbers right for the year account. But there's really no movement of any figures. The only movement is really the 600,000 that is moved to the personnel and the harbor. Those are really semantics to get the numbers right. So when we're making the year account, we don't have any issues. That's basically what this budget amendment is about. But I don't really have anything else to add outside of that, because we didn't really have a discussions about that present. We didn't have a presentation.
thank you, Commissioner. Members of the Island Council, what do you say? Councilman Smith, point of order, clarification.
I guess point of order. Good afternoon, everyone. So we would like to have some time to discuss this topic. So we will into a debate. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. The speaking order of this meeting is, I need to find out from the other members as well. What do you say, Council Lady Raquel Spanacarty? Yeah, and Councilman Clive Van Putten. And right now we are at a tie. So there are two who would like to debate and two who said, let's go to a vote. And so you put me quite in an awkward position because we have two. It's on. Thank you, Council Lady Raquel Spanacarty, for technically breaking the tie. You said, allow the meeting to debate. The speaking order for this meeting is Council Lady Raquel Spanacarty, Council Lady Mercedes Lopes-Spanner, Councilman Glenville Schmidt, and Councilman Clyde Van Putten. Council Lady Spanacarty, I give you the floor.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield my time.
Thank you, Council Lady Spanacarty. Council Lady Lopes-Spanner.
Good afternoon, everyone. I also yield my time.
Thank you, Council Lady Lopes-Spanner. Councilman Glenville Schmidt, you may address the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it's not much of a debate that we need to have on this. As we said, we discussed it already in the Central Committee. But there's still the lingering issue on behalf of the faction members. Feel, the issue of particularly the personal responsibility of approving this budget amendment. Of course, the finance folks announced that even though if we pass it, we can pass it, they will hold the fort at making sure that expenditures are not made, and that will safeguard us. But I must say, members of the faction still feel that we do not want to take the risk, the personal accountability, as you say, because we are hoping and expecting that the finance department unit manager is able to make sure that no expenditures are made. We know departments do what they want sometimes. There's not the proper oversight and control. So it remains a risk. Although I respect that the unit manager, will do what he can to avoid running in any negative issues for us and for the island. On this side of the aisle, we feel that we should not take the risk of approving this. And so that is the position that we hold from the PLP faction at this time with respect to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. Councilman Clyde Van Putten.
Madam Speaker, members of the council, and those listening by airways, as you indicated that this particular point was discussed amply in the Central Committee. I informed the chair during the course of yesterday that I could not be present because of a previous appointment that was very critical. So I was not present, but I'm sure that the faction, based on our internal discussion, defended the views and expressed the concerns. Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate that the council is put into this situation. I think that it has become a norm that every year we wait until the last minute to present budget amendments. We know that we always risk the possibility, because of the kind of relationship that you have with the Dutch, especially when it pertains to spending money. And so when this issue came up, I, as the majority leader in the Island Council, expressed the concern to the General Secretary of the Island Council, indicating that I did not want to put my faction in a very uncompromising situation where we could make a decision and then there could be consequences at the end of the day. We do not doubt the capabilities of nobody, including those at the Department of Finance that are the ones responsible in terms of oversight and the likes. But my experience would tell me that you cannot pass amid such a decision talking about an amendment, because already the Island Council was asked to compromise a week, because we know it's 2 weeks where the general public, the CFT have 2 weeks, the general public have another 2 weeks to be able to supervise and review the piece of legislation before us. And I cooperated with that reluctantly to ensure that it was passed. But at the same point in time, take into consideration that the financial year starts January to December. And I cannot imagine, even if the Island Council would approve this, we have no guarantee that the minister, or in this case the state secretary, would sign this document before the 31st of December. So I do not want to take the responsibility to approve something when we know that it could be legal ramification and implication. And therefore, I came with the intention, like I said, that it was my intention, to support the proposal that's put forward by the government. But again, I'm saying I find it terribly bad that every year we continue to find ourselves in this very terrible situation where we wait 5 minutes to 12 and we come with these type of proposals and expect the Island Council to simply rubber stamp it and then move on. I am not prepared to do that. I have said already that I would use my rights as a member of the Island Council. I would use the seat as afforded to me by the people to act in a responsible way. I remember not so long ago that I stood in this very council and I made an observation, and the Commissioner of Finance got up and said that his government is a government that follows laws. Well, this Island Council member is a council member that follows laws. And therefore, if it is presented for a vote, I will vote against it, because at my age and at my position, I'm not prepared to go to jail for nobody. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. I would like you to keep the conversation central and not speak to the director, unit manager, nor the commissioners. You are well aware of that. as an experienced council member, and we will stick to the rules of order. Having concluded that first round, I want to vet the Island Council if there's a need to go into a second round, or we can immediately go over to voting on the proposed third budget amendment and the reaction of the CFT. Point of order, point of
From the
clarification.
side of the PLP, there's no need for a second round.
Okay.
We are ready to vote.
Okay, good. I will go in accordance with the speaking time. Council Lady Raquel Spanner Carty, can you please express your vote on the agenda point 5? Councilman Merkman, you want to respond? Or Commissioner Merkman, you would like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's quite unfortunate that we have arrived at this locale where we are now. There were many motivation brought forth as to what this budget amendment was about. Because, as we said in the discussion in the Central Committee, this is pretty much a semantic exercise whereby it has ramifications for the year account. And it doesn't really have anything to do with spending. And it's looking around at what is transpiring here. I'm quite surprised that my own faction is voting against something that I am bringing, and the opposition is supporting it. That is what is have me here standing today. Anytime, and I would like to elucidate a little bit on that, anytime there's spending taking place, it's the finance department. Even if the executive council wants to spend something, they cannot spend something without advice of the finance department. And one of the things that we also mentioned this morning was that we have documentation where the CFT is saying, listen, if you get it to us within a certain time, we will see to it that it's passed before Christmas. That was amply said here. So, again, that even strengthens what I'm seeing transpiring today. I must say I'm quite taken back with that. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner of Finance, Ruben Merkman. Councilman Clyde Van Putten is a point of clarification, point of order.
I think that I said at the beginning of the discussion, it was the intention of the Progressive Labour Party faction in the council to support the budget amendment and the third quarterly amendment or the fourth, whatever it is, that was presented by the government. And in response to what the commissioner is saying, that he's quite taken back, when we should be even more taken back. Because if you're talking about your party faction, even before you present certain documents to the floor of the Island Council, they should be discussed with your party faction. And the party faction is not privy to nothing that is presented here today. And again, I'm saying the party faction expect its commissioners that it support on the Executive Council to be efficient and to do due diligence. Today, I think, is the 18th, if not the 19th of December. And again, I'm saying we risk the possibility that we could pass it here today, but we don't have the guarantee that the minister will sign. We don't have the guarantee the CFT could say a lot of things. I have given my opinion with regards to CFT before. So for me, it's not a point whether the opposition vote and your party faction vote against. Point is, we were given advice by the Office of the General Secretary. We depend on her as the legal arm to the Island Council as to how we move on different documents. And again, I said to my faction members, they are free to vote their conscience, but I will not vote for it. I will not vote for it. Again, I'm saying that if it had been on time, if it was proven based on the legal advice that we have and the guarantees that once the council passes it today, that it will be signed before Christmas, fine. But I don't have those guarantees. And again, I'm saying, I was told in this council on different occasions that that executive council follow the laws. They are legal. So is it legal when it is convenient to them? And when it is not convenient to them, then we break the law? Too old, too long in this business, I will vote against it.
Thank you, Councilman Van Putten. We will now go into voting on agenda point 5, which is the budget amendment and the reaction of the CFT. First speaker to express vote, Council Lady Raquel Spanner-Carty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I vote for.
Thank you, Council Lady Raquel Spanner-Carty. Council Lady Mercedes Lopes Spanner, please express your vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the explanation I got from the Finance Department and Management, I vote for.
Thank you, Council Lady Mercedes Lopes Spanner. Councilman Glenville Schmidt, please express your vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I vote against.
Thank you, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. Councilman Clyde Van Putten, please express your vote.
Madam Speaker, taking into consideration the legal ramification that this vote can have, I stand in the interest of the people of this country, and I vote against.
Thank you, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. We have a tie once again, 2-4 and 2 for and 2 against. And you can see that the registrar assisting me here is looking at the regulation of order to determine how to move forward when it regards a tie. I herewith propose a brief adjournment of 15 minutes as she continues to research this matter. This meeting is herewith adjourned for 15 minutes, which will bring us at 2:50 p.m. 10 minutes to 3, we will resume this meeting of the Island Council of St. Eustatius. I herewith reconvene this meeting, or this extraordinary meeting of the Island Council of St. Eustatius for today, Thursday, December 18th, 2025. And we are currently at agenda point 5, which is the third budget amendment and the CFT reaction. Shortly before our pause on this agenda point, the vote was expressed and there was a tie, 2 for and 2 against. I have before me Article 28 of the Regulation of Order titled Vote Roll Call or Vote Procedure. Yeah, it's Article 29 in the Regulation of Order. And I would like to read the third paragraph of the Regulation of Order of the Island Council. And it reads that in the event of a tie, the provisions of Article 32 of the WALBES apply. If the meeting is complete, the proposal is deemed to have been rejected. If the meeting is not complete, the decision about the resolution will be postponed until a subsequent meeting. If then the votes are tied to, the proposal is deemed to have been rejected. So at this time, the proposal is not rejected. It goes forward to another meeting per the Article 32 of the WALBES. So I want to thank everyone for their contribution to the discussion and thank the public for their patience with us today as we saw this out, and to show that as a council we follow our own regulation of order that is in compliance with the WALBES. I move now to agenda point 6, and agenda point 6 reads, Decision Permanent Committee Kingdom Relations and Supporting Motion with regards to the expansion of the islands and executive councils. This motion is being presented by the PLP faction in the Island Council. I look to who is presenting this motion on behalf of the party. Then, because you are presenting the motion, Councilman Glenville Schmidt, you will be the first to address this topic. I give you the floor. Being introduction and first round, I want to also propose 20 minutes, round 1, and 10 minutes if there's a need for a second round. What does the council say? Yes. Councilman Glenville Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, I guess I'll read a motion at the end of the presentation.
Yes.
Okay.
Give the elucidation first, then read the motion.
Yes, so Madam Chair, we're here again on this topic of not just the expansion of our councils, both island and executive councils, but we're basically here on the issue of local democracy, and also on the issue of the representatives of the people having a decisive and ultimate say in how we organize our local democratic process, the needs of our institutions locally, of course, in conformity with existing laws that govern our islands. I think I've stood here in our council on several occasions and expressed my bewilderment at times that we have to respond here locally to actions that are taken on the other side of the ocean in Europe, oftentimes without prior or proper consultation with the representatives of the people on this island. What it pertains here is the expansion of our island council. We've had a much talked about work conference in March 2024 with the former State Secretary Van Huffelen, also pertain to local democracy, the responsibility of local representatives. When the State Secretary at the time was trying to make changes to the WALBES and FINBES without the input of the local authorities, not only Statia, but Saba and Bonaire as well. And the three islands joined together in protest to the State Secretary and said, no, you should not be making decisions about us without first talking to us, without us being at the table. She conceded at that time, and she organized this work conference in March 2024 in a place in Holland called De Bilt. And all the islands were present there, the people from Bayset Ka, everybody who had something to say about this were present at that 3-day conference. And we came to agreements. We came to a whole slate of agreements. I don't want to call a number, but there could have been 20 or 30 specific agreements that we made with the State Secretary at the time. Well, Holland has its political instability just like we have here in the islands, and of course, you know, elections were held, government changed, new State Secretary came into place. In the meantime, we have the third State Secretary after Van Huffelen, second and the third in waiting. And the new State Secretaries, for whatever reason, decided that they too want to make changes to these agreements that we made, again, without prior consultation with the islands. And again, the islands protested. All three islands protested. We heard a lot about the position of the kingdom representative. That was one of the issues that they decided they want to do different than we agreed on. The issue of expansion of the island councils and expansion of the executive council is also one that now we are hearing they want to also make changes to that agreement. Now, we deliberated long and hard. From the beginning, many on our island here too had doubts or about expansion or no expansion, whether it's necessary, we can afford it, whether we're ready for it, etc., etc. But in the end, we came to an agreement, I think among all of us here in Statia, that we will support the expansion of the councils. We look at the increasing workload of the Island Council. The Island Council is a part-time function. Many of our members have to do other jobs besides the Island Council work. And when they say the Island Council is part-time, you know, it sounds like, well, now and then they call you up for a meeting. There are periods when there are meetings every day, sometimes in a week, every day of the week. The meetings don't always take place in Statia. Sometimes we have to move elsewhere, whether in Saba or Bonaire. Sometimes we move to the Netherlands, spend a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks we've been over there, executing the work of the Island Council. And we're not complaining. We do it because we put ourselves on a slate, political slate, saying we want to represent the people of Statia. And those of us that are here have been elected to do that. And so we gladly contribute our time and our effort to make sure that proper decisions are made on behalf of the island. But then for forces on the other side of the ocean to decide, that they want to make decisions, whatever we think here, whatever our priorities are, whatever Stacia thinks, we're going to make decisions over there anyway. Then it brings into question, Madam Chair, what are we doing here? If they can make decisions over there without consultation, without consulting, and it's not that they don't know, like I say, the work conference is there, but I'm sure this Island Council has passed several motions in the past on these topics, more than once. So they are well aware of the position of the councils. Now, yesterday we got the news via the media. Via the news media, we heard that the Kingdom Relations Committee, the new Kingdom Relations Committee, decided that they want to put this matter of expansion of the council, both councils, on hold, potentially until 2031. Until 2031. We were in a trajectory as particularly to speed up the process, not to delay it until 2031, but to speed it up so that it will be in time for 2027. So we can have more people in the council. My position has always been the more people involved in your democracy, the stronger your democracy is. I've said for 30-odd years, living here in Stacia, my personal opinion that the small size of our council keeps us back and keeps the progress in the islands down. And that has been also recognized by others in the same conference that we had, that there needs to be a broader basis of representation in the community. And it's not about wanting to easier get a seat or new parties. Well, that's the opportunity that will arise. But the point is we need to involve a broader cross-section of the community. And not only that, also from a legal standpoint. In the Netherlands, the size of what they call a gemeenteraad, is a city council, is stated in the law. There's no argument, there's no debate. Once every 4 years, they have to look at the figures of the Central Bureau of Statistics and see how many people officially lives in a municipality. And based on that information, the law says how many seats you must have in your city council. The intention of State Secretary Van Huffelen a couple of years ago, last year, was to bring us gradually in line with the laws that are applicable in the European part of the Netherlands. And that is why it was determined based on the Dutch municipal law, based on the population of the islands, that all the islands qualify for an increased number of council seats. Saba, smallest island, would be able to go up to 9 seats. Stacia, with our population, would qualify for 11 seats. And Bonaire, with a bigger population, of course, I think would go up to as much as 19. We also agreed that this increase will take place gradually, that we don't go from 5 to 9, or from 5 to 11 one time, or from 5 to 19. For each island, steps were put in place. The State Secretary agreed that every island should add 2 seats in first instance. And after that, Saba, Bonaire, after evaluations, can move further into a gradual increase. Stacia, we we elected at that time that after the first expansion to 7, we would like to go direct to the 11. That was a choice that we as an island made. And we would like to maintain that, at least from our faction, we would like to maintain that agreement that we had with the State Secretary and with the government of the past and with the Second Chamber. Of course, recently in the Netherlands, you had an election. And as a result of that election, a whole new Second Chamber was elected. And so there's also a new Kingdom Relations Committee that deals with the affairs of the islands. From the previous committee, only one member is a holdover in the new committee. So I think there are about 15 or 16 of them, because each party in the parliament has a representative on the committee. And I think there are about 15, at least 15 factions in the parliament. So each of them have a member. Don Seder from the Christian Union, I think, is the only person that is holdover from the previous committee. So I'm assuming that these new members, new to the affairs, made a decision not well aware of the history of things, not well aware of all the facts pertaining to this. But it was not only the fact that they are new to their positions. We understand from the news reports that our sister islands met with the committee 2 days ago, Saba and Bonaire, and according to the news report, immediately after that, the following day, the committee decided to change the position and declare the increase in the councils controversial. Controversial means that they are not going to deal with it until there's a new government in Holland. And we specifically requested the previous parliament, we do not want this thing to be declared controversial. And they went along with us. When will there be a new government in the Netherlands? The way things going now, it can take 6 months, maybe longer. And when you do have a government, because they're talking now about minority government and all this kind of thing, the question is how long it's going to last. So all in all, Madam Chair, this whole process that is going on now is not in the interest of our island. It's not in the interest of local democracy. It's not the interest of participatory democracy, that people participate. We hear that they want the islands to be more self-sufficient, self-redzaam, and when we make moves and attempts to achieve greater self-sufficiency, the chairs cut from under us and basically block us from making that progress. So I feel very strongly, that we need to send a strong message to the Netherlands, to the Parliament, that we are not in agreement with this. We agreed on expansion of our councils, and we would like to maintain that. As we've discussed so many times before, and in our deliberations on many other topics, the local democracy, the local autonomy, those things are very important for the future development of our island. And as I said already, the increasing workload of the Island Council means that we need more hands and more support and more brains, more heads to put together in order to make the decisions we need to make and to carry out the work at hand. So, Madam Chair, we've put a motion together quickly, basically calling on the authorities there in the Netherlands to stick to earlier agreements in the interest of the islands and the work of the Island Council and the Executive Council also, because it also involves an increase in number of commissioners for the islands. So with your permission, Madam Chair, do you require that I read this at this time? Okay, so this motion presented on behalf of the Progressive Labour Party, having read the decision list of the Second Chamber Permanent Committee, besluitenlijst van de Vaste Kamercommissie of yesterday, December 17, 2025. Considering the Permanent Committee decision to declare controversial the expansion of the island and executive councils, the results of the work conference in the Bild of March 2024, the earlier consultations with the several state secretaries and ministers, the earlier motions and expressions of the Island Council of St. Eustatius, the increased workload of the island councils, the need for bringing new persons into the council, the goal to bring our regulations in line with the Municipalities Act or Gemeentewet. Resolves that the Island Council of St. Eustatius unreservedly stand firm on the Island Council expansion in time for the Island Council elections in March 2027, to request the State Secretary of the Interior and Kingdom Relations to continue with the preparations for implementation by March 2027. To request the Kingdom Relations Committee to reconsider its decision to delay the expansion, and goes over to the order of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. I move now to Council Lady Raquel Spanner-Carty. You may address the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think there's much left to add. I just would like to state here that our faction 2 supports the motion and was disappointed when we saw the article come out yesterday. We feel currently that the council is not a direct reflection and representation of our community. We welcome the additional seats. We welcome the additional opinions. We welcome the additional expertise that others may bring and views. And I feel that we can better serve our community with larger capacities, as well as the strain on our commissioners and the amount of portfolios that they have, and also considering that they often have to cover for each other. So basically you are responsible for all. So with that having been said, I will support the motion when it comes to a vote.
Thank you, Council Lady Raquel Spanner-Carty. Council Lady Mercedes Lopes Spanner, you may address the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My DP leader already explained the position that we are in, so I will yield my time.
Thank you, Council Lady Lopes Spanner. Fourth and final speaker, Councilman Clyde Van Putten.
Madam Speaker, I think that one of the deputies in this faction gave a very clear view with regards to the position of the PLB factions. I would be very brief on it. But I think, again, this underscores the need for constitutional reform. Like he indicated, we had agreements in the Netherlands in 2024, and clearly the Dutch did not stick to them. I believe that the islands were even insulted and disrespected during one of the previous meetings we had in the Netherlands. And I think more and more we take note that this is the modus operandi on the part of the Dutch, because they are the powerful state and they do as they please. I think the entire Executive and Island Council was recently in the Netherlands for almost 10 days. And there was only one meeting with the members of the committee, and I think it had to do with the PSO. I don't believe that they are going to do anything. Where that is concerned, my colleague indicated that the only member of that committee currently, in the current status, that went over from the old committee was Don Seder of the Christian Union. But I think that if these people are really reading and following what the second place, because we weren't meeting before, and I think there's a second member from the D66, and so it will be 2 members instead of 1. But from that meeting we had with them previously, for me it is very clear that the interests of these islands are not really important to these parliamentarians in Holland. I think they have bigger fishes to fry. I agree that the time has come that the Island Council should be expanded. It is something that we have been talking about since in the 90s, several motions which I was either presenter or co-signature in the days of the Netherlands, Antilles, and even later now being a part of the Dutch Constitution state. We have been asking for this. And I think that what is very evident is that in the Netherlands, I think the laws there is very clear that you increase the representation in the municipal council based on the size of your population. And they have municipalities in Holland that is much smaller than Statia, which is considered a special public entity, and yet we are stuck to 5. I know that there were differences of opinion as to whether it should be increased at all, or how large the increase should be, but I think there was an understanding in the end as to the number that we would like to see, and we even went a step further in stating that there should be provision where the Island Council would be able to determine the ultimate size that they would like to see the Island Council. But I'm told, and while we are here debating, I just received a WhatsApp from a very direct source in the Netherlands, where it is stated that there were meetings with Bonaire and Sabre on this matter. And they knew that Statia was in Holland, and so it was the intention to have the input of Statia with regards to this decision, then there would have been some form of communication. And this information that I got is from a political source in the political realm in the Netherlands that states clearly that there were meetings with Bonaire and Sabre. When these type of things happen, I'm not surprised, because I think that everybody knows my position as far as the Netherlands is concerned. They cannot be trusted. They do things that is pleasing to them. I have said before that I have no problem in working with them, but I think that we must work out of equality and respect for our different populations. Quite recently I had the opportunity to give a feedback with regards to the experiences of 10-10-10 to now. And there again, I express what is living among the community, because my ears are daily on the ground. I'm in contact with the people. I know how the people in this country feels about this relationship, whether it's benefiting us, yes or no. And that is why I said that we should always be on our guard. But when I got the information yesterday, I was contacted first by one reporter, and then 2-3 after contacted me. I spoke with one of the MPs last night in the Netherlands on the matter and asked why this decision, because I know in the past there was discussion to declare the whole, how we would say, dossier, the whole package, declare it controversial, and they didn't want to hear about it. And now at this point in time that you are doing this, I find it very unfortunate, but like I said, I'm not surprised. And so when the idea, the proposal came from one of the deputies in the faction, Mr. Schmidt, to present such a motion, I immediately give it my blessing, because I believe that the Island Council should send a very clear signal whether they give content with yes or no. But like was said before, I believe that we are now in the 21st century. The workload for both the Executive Council as well as the Island Council has become very enormous. I think that we are even working now more than prior to the intervention that they had in 2018. And like it is said, a lot of people not necessarily directly working for government, the local government, some in the private sector, some working for other organizations and so forth. But yet it requires a tremendous sacrifice for members to do their job, met eden geweten, as they would say in Dutch. So the motion that the PLP faction initiated by one of the deputies in the faction, I definitely will support it, because I think the message must be clear. That Stacia is not going to just roll over and play dead. But again, I'm saying that if God spared my life, I said it during the meeting in the Netherlands, and I would restate it. I think the time is now that we must go back to the people by means of a constitutional referendum, and let the people once and for all declare what is their preference and what they stand for. Because more and more, based on my experience, my long involvement, even the way they deal with the region, who doesn't necessarily form part of their domain, and then when we take into consideration the things that we have to go through in order to be able to get a relevant assistance from them, then I think it is bizarre. And a lot of people in the other islands, especially the British-speaking islands, independent island states, they just don't understand sometimes the relationship and some of the things that the Dutch does, where these islands are concerned. But like it is properly said, it is what it says. I cannot change it. I think my colleagues spoke about the many state secretaries we had dealing with this topic and other topics relating to the whole revision of both the FinBES and the FOLBES, which is the financial laws and administrative laws that governing these islands. And I remember that meeting specifically as a member of the delegation. I asked Manuel Flynn at the time if she had the moral and legal authority to do what she was doing, because I thought it was rushing the brush before she left office, and she answered to the affirmative. And I think not only all the islands participated, but even the Chief Justice of the Dutch Caribbean, which at this point in time is the governor of Curacao, he presided over those meetings. So it gives real weight and content, to the seriousness of the meeting. And then you had her successor, Basso or Sabo, whatever his name was. And then we get the current state secretary, Eddie van Maden. One of the things, like my colleague indicated, having a senior civil servant determine what's happening in these islands. And we took note of the fact that even though it was agreed by all the islands and the Dutch that that position will become obsolete, they picked out that and they want to maintain it. And I think for me, it's undermining and emptying of the authority of the Island Council, the Executive Council, even the governor, that actually represents the Dutch government and the local entity. And so, for me, I am watching carefully. I said that the Executive Council recently was in the Netherlands, and a lot of meetings would have taken place there. The proof is still in the pudding. I hope in the coming period that the public will know exactly what was signed, what was agreed to, who they met with and blah, 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 because I think that is a responsibility they have to the country and to the community. But again, I'm saying that dealing with the Dutch, it's like a nightmare, because you never could fathom them. They always come with something different. I know that myself and others who worked with me before was accused by some of the people within our own party and our own government at the time in stating that we were responsible for the intervention by the Dutch. And I am proud that so many years later we are still fighting with budgetary challenges and other procedures, and we haven't seen their behavior change despite all the money that was invested, all the promises that was made to improve the situation on the island. We see that despite that intervention, we had the governor here for 6-7 years. You understand that the island is still faced with the many problems that we have been faced with over a period of time. And I know that when I speak, Madam Speaker, I know that I'm heavily criticized, maybe very much disliked in the community, but one parliamentarian from St. Martin spoke about the luck that the people in Statia, the fortunate opportunity that they still have a man like me who dare to stand up and challenge the status quo. I listened to one of the eminent historians and professors in St. Martin over the weekend. Somebody sent me a tip where Dr. Rhoda Arundel was similarly expressing that opinion. But you know, it is said that the prophet never got the honor in his own country, and I'm not looking for that. But like I said, as long as I have the health and breath, whether they like it or not, as Austin Woodley would say, they could lump it, I would remain engaged, I would remain involved, whether in the Island Council or in any other forum, and I will continue to speak out and challenge the recolonization of the island and challenge the injustices that is being done to the people. So I think the motion is in place. Whether they use it or not, at least it will be on record to know that the Island Council of Statia have taken a very firm position as far as this is concerned. But I find that this type of behavior on the part of the divide and conquer tactic, where you meet with one or more islands, and as I think my colleague Mr. Simmons referred to Statia as the stepchild of the forgotten, because Statia, unlike any of the islands, dare to stand up, and it isn't now. I go back in the days of Willie Dock and all of those society leaders. They stood up, they made their voice known, not only against Holland, but even against Curacao, when it was Curacao and on the whole. And then we have always stood up. We have always stood out and stated our position, where we stand when we did not agree with something, when something was not in the interest of our people. And I want to say, I intend to address the country in the coming days, Madam Speaker, but I hope that the people in this community would stop looking at the messengers and looking at the message, and people would realize that it is not just a passport, or it is not just the monies that they believe that is given to us, because it's more than that. Somebody said in Holland during the same conference that the Netherlands is the rich country today because of the sweat, blood, and tears of our fathers, forefathers here in the Dutch Caribbean. And those of us who know our history would recognize that that is the case. But I have also said that unless government gets up off its laurel, stop totally depending on Europe, and look beyond Europe, Madam Speaker, then 20 years, 30 years, I'll be in my grave. But the generations who are coming and who will take up the leadership in this country, they would be faced with the same problem, because the realities are, we are getting limosa. We are getting the very little, the very pittance, the crumbs under the table. They are not being fair to us. They are not, we have to end up borrowing loans to build low-income houses and borrow loans to do this and to do that. And so, Madam Speaker, I don't believe that it is in the interest of the country. So when the motion come to a vote, I will definitely vote in favor, because I believe a clear message must be sent to the Hague that we are not prepared to continue to accept the insult and disrespect on the part of the Dutch government and Parliament. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. This concludes round one. I will give the portfolio holder of Constitutional Affairs the opportunity to say a few words on this topic. Commissioner Resheline Leerdam, you may address the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to all. As the councilman said, the Executive Council met with the State Secretary in The Hague, and all three islands met. And in that position, all three islands maintained the position of the bill, where we said that the agreements that was made in the bill, we all want to stick to it, and the execution of the agreement should be done in its entirety and not pull out certain aspects of it. This was expressed. The State Secretary expressed that he would maintain his position when it comes to the RV, but he did state that he would like to have reduces in terms of input from the islands so they can fill in this new description of the the RV, the Kingdom Representative. So he's stating as he's willing to make some changes to what is there now based on what I think the former State Secretary put in place, but he's not going to divert from going back to this all the agreements made in the bill. You know, a lot of different areas was brought up, urgencies as well, and the request from all three islands was to maintain the agreements made in the bill. Also, we asked for a comply explain, and they was going to send us an email on that, because it was brought up that the Raad van State also stated that the position of the RV, you know, should not be kept. So all those questions were asked, and they were to answer us back on the way forward. The only question I would have, if I may, Madam Chair, lady, is that I went online and I saw the decision that was made to declare this specific topic controversial, but then I am a bit lost to know what is the position of the rest of the agreements made in the bill for the wall and the Finbest. Does this mean that everything is made controversial or just that part, or do we expect still that the RV will take the format that they're still trying to put in place? So I would like to ask in this motion if we can also request clarity, or maybe we can send our own letter separately asking what does this mean now for the whole discussion. Does this mean everything is decided to be controversial, or just this one topic of the expansion, but then they're going to go ahead with the RV? What about the Finbest, Wallbest? What about other things? So it is that part is not clear to me. So I think we would send it before the recess, send a question out and ask. I think this also put a spoke, if I can say it like that, into the State Secretary. I guess his trajectory, what he had planned as well. So I guess we will hear from the Bizitka. But I think we will also send along with a motion, we'll also send questions wanting to know what does this mean for the other points that we agreed upon in the bill. When we talk about the expansion, we also talk about expanding the Island Council with also a proper remuneration. And I think that was emphasized very greatly in the meeting with the State Secretary, because we're talking about these things, but the agreement again that we had in the bill, they're not being followed through entirely. We spoke about not dictate anymore for council members, because as the member said, the workload is not part-time. We talk about putting a proper salary towards these functions to give it the authority and the respect, and also to get the various representation that you want in from the island into the Island Council. Can you imagine that, you know, thank God we have companies that work along, but if you have to So you work in a supermarket, or you work anywhere actually, and you work and then you have to come to council meetings, you have to fly away, and then they tell you, the law don't provide for you to do that, so you have to take your vacation days. Now you are stuck between taking vacation days because you don't have rice telling. The amount of money you're getting in the Island Council as a remuneration, $500, you cannot live off of that. So if your boss tell you, okay, I'm going to take the hours from your salary, they're talking about you cannot eat, because the Island Council representation, while you know it's a very important responsibility, you know, the financial is not there. So you're going to be stuck with the same issue that persons who may want to take part will not be able to take part for those obvious reasons. So we also said, I believe, came with a proper solution towards not only the expansion, but to ensure that we really have a good representation on all the islands in the council. So there was no discussion on all those areas. I saw there was a increase in the remuneration, but that is not what was agreed upon in the bill. We talk about putting a proper salary to the functions. Indeed, the increase of the executive council is highly needed. The workload for the commissioners, I'm on this side, and I can see, like I said, I don't know how anybody did it before. It's impossible to manage 13 portfolios each and be effective. So definitely having an expansion of the executive council and having at least additional manpower on the executive council would be the ideal, because then it can be more efficient in getting things achieved for the island. But I would like to leave it there, and like I said, I think from the executive council aspect, we will ask some clarity on the steps forward in terms of what does this mean for all the other points that was discussed in the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Reshaline Leerdam. I look now to the members of the Island Council. Councilman Schmidt, yes, you have a question, point of clarification, you may speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, as the Commissioner said, you know, the three islands met with the State Secretary and they agreed that they will move forward with the agreements made in the bill. And he also said without taking certain things apart. You know, we specifically requested in the past that the issue of expansion be put in a separate legislation so that it doesn't wait on the rest of the adjustment of the WALBES and FINBES. Am I understanding that that is what you agreed upon, or did you agree that everything must stay together and approve as one package? Because we have asked that this matter of expansion, including the remuneration, be taken out separately and done in time for the 2027 elections.
Commissioner Leerdam, you may address the meeting.
Discussion has always been when the RV came in and the change in the RV that what that was not was discussed. When the State Secretary came here, he met with the Island Council. He said this is the only time he's going to meet with the Island Council. The point of the RV was the main point of discussion. That was the only thing that was changed in the bill, whether it was going to be fast track or not. We said all three islands, the Island Council passed a motion and said that they want to maintain the agreements in the bill, and that is what we carried into that meeting, is that whatever we agreed in the bill is what we want to maintain. If the RV, you're going to make change to the RV, means that you're changing the agreement. And then on my part, I said, and I said it as well when he was here in Stacia, it warrants then to reopen the discussion, because we all had water by the wine when we had a discussion to come to all those agreements in the bill. Every island put aside something so we could come to this agreement, and you cannot unilaterally take what you want and change and then say, well, yeah, because you State Secretary or high civil servant, as they would say. So the motion that was sent, we told them that is our feedback when it comes to the consultation about the RV and about everything. We are maintaining the state that whatever was agreed upon in the bill, we want to maintain. And that was the message that we carried based on the motion that was passed. We also carried that information.
Okay, so I want to ask specifically the position,
Councilman, through the chair, point of clarification.
Yes, point
Okay.
of clarification. So then I want to know the position of the Executive Council specifically on the issue of expansion. Yes, the expansion was agreed in the bill, just like all the other things. We know they took out the issue of kingdom representative and made changes there. So I'm asking the Executive Council, do you support taking out the issue of expansion of Island and Executive Council and passing that through separate legislation, not waiting on the rest of the changes to the WALBES and FINBES? Will you support that position towards your counterpart, who is the State Secretary, that this matter of expansion be handled with expeditiously in a separate legislation in time for the elections of 2027? What is the position of the Executive Council on that?
Rocheline Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like I state, we carry the same position, nothing hasn't changed. All we asked in our meeting is that we would like to see it executed as we discussed in the bill. Because we also spoke about the key sweat, the law of a 75% in the bill. We also spoke about the remuneration. We spoke about the seating, and these were our concerns, and we asked if it's going to be executed fast track, because to me, I thought everything was going to be done, the RV, the allowance for us to borrow, because it was not only about the expansion, it was about that we can also borrow. This was going to be fast tracked as well, and the RV. I think it was 4 or 5 points that's going to be fast tracked out of the agreements. The only issue we had was the fast tracking of the RV was not conform what we agree in the bill. And that is what I understand, and that's where we stand. And all we asked in that meeting is to please stick to the agreements we made. So if you're going to fast track the Executive Council and the Island Council expansion, please agree to the remuneration we spoke about. Please agree to the infrastructure for seating. Please agree to the KISBET. Please agree to what we had in the build if you want to pull out certain things. Our issue is the change with the RV, and that's where the whole discussion came, and that's why the Island Council also stated, you cannot unilaterally change one aspect and then dangle other things in front of your face, which is, we're going to give you the right to borrow as well, so you can change the RV. And that has been the controversial discussion from all 3 islands. It's been public. So trying to separate, I really don't understand, because that is the discussion we've been having for the last couple of months in terms of executing and also as per the agreement in the bill.
Councilman Van Putten.
Madam Speaker, I think in terms of clarity, when I refer to meetings between the islands, I understood the government in Stasia had several meetings in Holland. But I am not aware that there were joint meetings with the Executive House of the 3 islands. I'm not aware of that. The meeting that I'm referring to is that I understood that the Permanent Committee for Kingdom Relation met with island representatives of Sabre and Bonaire. I don't know whether it was in a joint meeting or it was a separate meeting, but that is what I understand. The Island Council, our faction, presented a motion where we rejected overwhelmingly the proposal that put forward by State Secretary Eddie Van Maren, because he too, and I don't even think it's so much him, it's the people at Basic Cardi, Rennie Bacchus and all of them who believe they have ownership of these islands. Because when you sometimes contact the State Secretary, when you ask him certain things, he looking back and he babbling, he don't know what to say. So it tells me that these civil servants in Holland want to have that stranglehold and bring that recolonization agenda. Where the issue of the kingdom representative, I said I don't agree with it. We have made it clear. And we have a motion. And we will be discussing very early in the new year the need to hire in to assist the Island Council a constitutional lawyer. I just said that I will call for a new referendum. I will table a motion to that effect on the floor of the Island Council. But where this issue is concerned, sometimes we send mixed signals, because I listen to meetings here with the very same Elephant Martin and his people. And I see there were cracks in the wall. There were cracks in the wall, not only here locally, but even when you see the Dutch, they are pirates. And so what they do, they take their pocketbook and they hand out the little goodies. So if I have a need, I want the iPhone, and you want the nose phone, then they're going to say, well, okay, let me give him this, sweeten him up, sweeten her up, and then they break the link in the chain. So that is what they are doing with these islands, not just Statia, Saba, and Bonaire. But when I listen to the three bigger islands in Holland, I mean, look what they did with the Kingdom Consensus Law, with the issue with Aruba. Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin was very adamant that this whole issue with their financial business should be a lunch for ordering and not the Kingdom Rijkswet. And the current Prime Minister, Holy Dine, go to Holland, they sweeten him up. He went on a hunger strike sometime back. While he was on the hunger strike with regards to the appointment of the governor back then, he thought by going on the hunger strike, and mind me, he's a big proponent of the CDA, what they do, they take off and they went on the Easter break. And so the different religions in Aruba and other people prayed with him and asked him to come up the hunger strike that he don't die. So again, I'm saying it's nothing new. But what I'm not talking about any meeting the Executive Council had, because I did hear something that there might have been a meeting, but it wasn't confirmed if it was taking place. But I am referring that I am told that there was a meeting with the Island Council, whether they were together separately. That's what I heard. I can't confirm it, but that's what I heard. And after the meeting, then they came out and they declared this whole thing controversial with the increase of the members in the Executive and Island Council.
Thank you, Councilman Van Putten. And final on this topic is Commissioner Leerdam. Your final response?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did inform both councils, both factions of the Island Council about the meeting. I actually copied the email and put it via WhatsApp to each council so they could know about this meeting on the 9th with the State Secretary. We had requested that we could have had a tete-a-tete, if I can say it like that, before we go into the meeting. But like I said, the Island Council motion was the motion that we went into the meeting with, and that was our standpoint. The main point of the discussion was, again, the controversial part, the keeping of or the changing of the Kingdom representative, and that was what, like the meeting we had with him, it was revolved around. So I would like to leave it there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And just to confirm to you, Councilman Van Putten, specific to your question, BC Statia was not part of any Kingdom relations meeting. That's a question you want to know. BC Statia was not part of any meeting with the Kingdom relation. Okay, so that you're sure.
I will know what tools to use when I'm ready to know who BC Statia met with and what they agreed to. And I think that if you know me, you could rest assured in the interest of the people. I would use that tool when the time is right. We are going into the holidays. I would use those days as a moment of reflection. And like I said, I will address the country and let them know where I stand on a number of issues, because the people is out there waiting to hear from me and to hear from many others where we stand on a number of issues. What I said, that there may have been a meeting and both you and the commissioner confirmed. I don't remember the WhatsApp. Maybe it was an oversight, but I did hear that there was a planned meeting, because the state secretary did say he was speaking to the Executive Council, but probably it was an oversight. But I wasn't referring to the meeting with the thing. I heard, like I said, there were meetings with the new committee for Kingdom Relations with the delegations of Saba and Statia. That is what I heard from my political conduct. Not Statia, sorry, Bonaire and Saba. So, I mean, there's no need to know whether your committee or your Executive Council met with them. I will know in time. I didn't ask the questions. I don't need a clarification now.
Thank you, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. The question now is, should we go immediately over to the vote on the motion of the PLP faction? I will Acclamation, or do we want to do a head count? Acclamation? We have to do a head count. Yes. I will start with you, the presenter of the PLP faction, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. What is your vote?
I vote for.
Thank you, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. Council Lady Raquel Spanner-Carty, how do you vote?
I vote for, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council Lady Spanner-Carty. Council Lady Lopes-Spanner, how do you vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I vote for.
Councilman Clyde Van Putten, how do you vote?
Madam Speaker, I vote for.
This motion of the PLP faction entitled Decision Permanent Committee Kingdom Relations and Motion Expansion Island and Executive Councils is herewith unanimously carried. We now move right away into agenda point 7, which is the motion refocusing the well-being and rights of our secondary education students. This motion is being presented by the Democratic Party. I now look to the leader, the faction leader of the Democratic Party, Mrs. Spanner-Carty. You may address the meeting on this agenda point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I chose to present this motion now because I do not want to go into 2026 still speaking about this, and hopefully, like I entitled it, that we can refocus and move on. True educational reform, I feel, must prioritize equipping our youth with skills, confidence, and character needed to shape the island's sustainable future. That is what we're speaking about in our previous motion, about having people equipped to take certain positions, and especially in the Island Council. To achieve this, a safe and supportive learning environment is a legal and moral obligation, and its absence undermines both learning outcomes and personal development. Now, the Netherlands and its public entities are bound by the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which guarantees every child's right to quality education, safety, and development. Parents, as myself, often struggle to obtain professional help for their children without an official indication from the school. I've experienced this in the past when I wanted help for my son, and I was told by the expert center that unless the school recognizes the need, my request is difficult to adhere to. Now, if the school is otherwise preoccupied, this is hard for them to indicate special needs. I've gone to school here, and I remember in the Governor de Graaf school was one that in the past, only one special class existed, and there was a limited understanding or identification of learning challenges such as ADHD, dyscalculia, or autism. Nowadays, we have such an increase in these things, and students requiring special attention or support, and this raises my concern about the adequacy of the current educational system in meeting these special needs. During recent consultations with OCWA and BZK, the emphasis, unfortunately, was placed on nullifying a motion rather than addressing the core issue, which I feel is the welfare and development of our students. Despite repeated assessments and reports highlighting deficiencies in educational outcomes and student well-being in our school, there has been limited or no transparent follow-up to ensure that recommendations were implemented. And with this, I would like to present my motion because I feel our children truly are our future, and that is not just a slogan or a song lyric, but it's an undeniable truth and responsibility. With your permission, I will read the motion.
Yes, you may.
The motion is presented by the Democratic Party on today, December 18th, entitled Refocusing on the Well-Being and Rights of Our Secondary Education Students. After hearing the deliberations, considering recent discussions and actions surrounding education on St. Eustatius have focused heavily on ministries, management, school boards, teachers, while the well-being of the children, the very purpose of education, was not the main focus. During recent consultations with OCB and BZK, the emphasis was placed on nullifying a previous motion and not sufficiently on the welfare and development of our students. Despite years of inspection reports indicating serious concerns, the ministries failed to act decisively, even during teacher strikes, to ensure stability and continuity in the learning environment. The long-term development, education, and protection of the children of St. Eustatius are essential to the island's future and must take precedence over administrative and political interests. Resolves to request that the Executive Council urgently engage the Kinder Ombudsman to conduct a thorough investigation into whether the rights of the children of St. Eustatius are being adequately met, particularly regarding quality of education, a school environment conducive to learning, student safety and emotional well-being, preparedness of self-development, and further education. Request further that the Executive Council provide the Kinder Ombudsman with a comprehensive report detailing all actions taken by both local and national government levels, including ministries, the school board, and the union, any mediation or intervention efforts previously undertaken to address the ongoing challenges in education. Request that the Executive Council ensure this report and engagement with the Kinder Ombudsman be completed and submitted no later than January 31st, taking into account the upcoming holiday and recess period. And be it further resolved that this motion serves as a collective recommitment by the Island Council to place the well-being, education, and rights of our children at the center of all educational policy and decision-making processes on St. Eustatius, and goes over to the order of the day.
Thank you, Council Lady Raquel Spanner-Carty. We will now follow and hear from the different council members on this topic. I now give you the floor, Council Lady Mercedes Lopes Spanner.
Madam Chair, thank you. My lead already explained everything, so I will yield my time.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Glenville Schmidt, you may address the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, when it comes to education, I always want the best for the students on our island. I think in previous meetings we've stated quite a lot about the situations in our education, the challenges that our children face. And we know in this day and age, the challenges for our students are getting more and more by the day. So I support any effort, that would make the education of the children and life in general for our students and our children better. I particularly support this motion because I see that the Office of the Ombudsman, the Children's Ombudsman, is being asked to do what I assume would be an independent assessment and investigation into the quality of education, the learning environment, school safety, student safety, and preparedness, as it says, for self-development and further education. And of course, to enlist the support of the local government in this. Like I say, this follows motions presented in the past, also from our faction. Of course, there still remains a few unresolved issues, well, not a few, quite a few unresolved matters at the school that we, I'm sure, will hear about in the future. But as I said, I support the motion in order to get an independent assessment from the Ombudsman Office as to what is happening at our secondary school. I think it's refers to specifically secondary school. So I will leave it there, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. Final speaker, Councilman Clyde Van Putten.
Madam Speaker, one of the favorite political personalities in St. Lucia was the late George Odlum, a political figure that some characterize, like myself, as controversial because he dared to call sin by name. And I remember years ago when St. Lucia was going through its political crisis, and there was certain recommendation made, and it was during a sitting of that country's parliament, after listening to leaders like the father of the nation, Sir John Compton, and many others. He said in the parliament, he said, Mr. Speaker, I was almost persuaded. And like my colleague indicated, when it comes around education, we want the best for our children. My wife and my daughter is involved in education. I have nieces living in the Netherlands who are involved in education. And I have their friends and supporters who would die for me, who's also involved in education, and look toward us to be able to remedy the problems. Against that backdrop, Madam Speaker, as was stated before, it was on the 19th of May, 2025, that the PLP faction tabled the very issue that this motion is relating to. And we expressed serious concern about the function of the school board, and we asked to, and the whole running and management of the school, and we asked to urgently investigate the situation there, especially when we took note of the two damning reports that was produced by the inspectorate coming out of Holland. We call on the Executive Council at the point in time to become more proactive. I got criticism, and I'm not afraid because I don't afraid anybody. I felt that the government was weak. And I don't apologize in saying that the government has been weak, this government, in addressing the issue of the education crisis at the Brendan Van Putten School. And I stand to be corrected because I remember it was during, we weren't live, we were talking about the situation, and I remember you, Governor, saying it was not the Pakian, so it was not the business, the competence of the local government to deal with it, and I stand to be corrected. Madam Speaker, we also had a meeting on the 10th of July, I think before we went to recess, talking about this matter again. A motion was presented, and I remember we had fierce conversations in the back room in trying to come to...
Mr. Van Putten, I don't want you to destroy the
Yes, but then we will pay for it. The government seemed to have a lot of money.
But if
I hear you all just had a party for $30,000.
We will put it to your
so you have money. the bottom line, Madam Speaker, is that we discussed it, and it was a very, very tense meeting, and both sides made contribution to the motion. And again, we call for dialogue. Again, we call for intervention. And then, I think in the last motion, we asked that the board be removed based on the way we 2020. And then, all of a sudden, the question came up whether it was a public school or a private school. Madam Speaker, we passed the motion here in the afternoon hours, because the meeting went on. And by the following morning, or maybe the same night, the Kingdom representative sent a mail asking for the result of the motion, and he was sending it up. Now, I have been in politics for 40-odd years. I served for over 3 decades, and both this parliament combined and the highest authority, which was the former Netherlands Antilles, and we know that when a motion is sent up, you have solid reasons, solid legal grounds that would have been violated, that would have caused the governor to send up that motion for annulment. When it came back, they asked to give them, I think it was 4 or 6 months, and that's not the way it go. And then Glenn Smith, as a private citizen, wrote an article in the media wondering if His Majesty, the King's signature, wasn't being compromised. And then all of a sudden it seemed like the King wake up from his palace in Holland and said, but wait a minute, I need some more time to really investigate what is going on. It's either it is wrong or it is right. There ain't no question about putting out for 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, or 10 months. If based on the law, you would have seen that whether it is the Island Council, the Executive Council, the Parliament, and the countries or the Cabinet would have made a decision and it did not meet the test of time, then it is the responsibility of the island governors or the governors in those countries to send it up for annulment. So we are stuck. But Madam Speaker, I didn't come here for any confrontation because we are in the festive season. But I spoke to one of my deputies in the faction concerning the motion. Because you see, a lot of people may not like big mouth Hein, but I have always been consistent. Consistent because when we presented the motion, and I said to Councilman Smith at the time, you write it, because maybe they don't like me. Or maybe my words sometimes are too strong. So you write the motion. By you writing the motion, most likely the other side of the aisles may support it. But Madam Speaker, whenever the PLP faction presented a motion on this topic of education, it was rejected. And it's understandable. I know the politics too. That is my field of study. So I know it. And I know at times when we make certain decisions in government, whether at the Island Council level or the Executive Council, we may be mashing certain doors. But I stood here and I said, if it is my wife or if it is my daughter, Madam Speaker, and the wrong, I'm going to call them out, I'm going to condemn them, and I'm going to allow them even more. Because I took an oath to preserve, defend, and protect the general well-being of the people of this country. So because I did that, I should not compromise. Even if my party member is involved, even if my wife, my sister, or whoever, my own Executive Council was angry with me, but I maintain it. I feel the government of Statia could have been more firm in dealing with this matter because we have the articles of incorporation to prove the school is a public school. The Dutch is not granting us any favor in making monies available to invest in education because we collecting taxes. And moreover, I stood on the floor of this council and I asked many times, bring the slot for cladding. Look for the motion where the island councils, on the recommendation of the 3 executive councils, said that the Dutch would handle certain things for us and help us to even build on those retrain our civil servants, make monies available to bring in more people, and then when the islands were ready, then they would take it back. And to this day, Beseta is behaving like they are the government of the island, while the people of the island know none of them. They went to vote for an island council, and the island council in return, Madam Speaker, put commissioners to run the day-to-day operation on behalf of the council and to the people of the country. So I was shocked, to be honest with you, and I respect any council member or any faction to come with a motion. But I am asking, Madam Speaker, why now? Why now? Because when we were talking about it, we were not looking in a partisan direction. We were looking in the direction that what was going on at the Gwendolyn Van Putten School should not be permitted to take place. And I even warned that school boards from the other elementary schools should be looked closely at how they manage the affairs, how they manage the monies that is made available to them in order, Madam Speaker, to be able to carry out education and to provide affordable, good quality education for the children of the country. And Madam Speaker, even when we was in the room, the opposition, Madam Speaker, contributed towards the motion. And when it reached on the floor of the Island Council, they voted against. And when people asked out there, you participated, the majority said you even had an input. Madam Speaker, there was a lot of different innuendos and excuses as to why it was that, and I respect people's rights to vote where they want. But then when you wake up and you realize what is going on and the direction the education is going in this country, then you come to the Island Council in the wee hours of the night, Madam Speaker, and expect that me, Clive Van Putten, which I would vote against that motion, Madam Speaker. I told my deputy, if him and if Mr. Simmons was here and they want to vote for it, it is their right. But out of principle and being consistent, Madam Speaker, I would vote against the motion. Because again, I'm saying back then, we presented motions, 3 motions, and I asked the communication advisor of the Island Council to bring the motion, Madam Speaker. I have them here. If I had all the time in the world, I would read them to refresh the minds of the people that the PLP, and Clyde didn't write all of them. I made sure Glenn Smith, who's one of the deputies in the faction, that he was one of the authors to help to put those motions together with the input of those of us. So again, I'm saying, Madam Speaker, like I start off, almost persuaded, but not convinced. The PLP went a step further. And the PLP used its majority in the Island Council. And we said we will take them to court. We will take them to court. Because I know the Dutch. I work with them. And if the Dutch had anything substantial to prove that the school is a private school, we wouldn't have this discussion. But the articles of incorporation that was provided by the General Secretary Office give you a clear indication that the school, Madam Speaker, is a public school. They went so far, they brought in a former colleague of mine, Paul Rosenmiller, and the former governor of Bonaire, Nali Oliana, to change the articles of incorporation, because the articles state clearly you must be a legal resident to be a member of the board. And one day to the other, they change the board again, maybe the second, third, fourth, fifth time, so that they will be able to facilitate these 2 members on the board. They requested a meeting with me. I told them I wasn't meeting with you as a majority leader in the Island Council. I was meeting with you as an individual, but I know both men. I consider them friends and colleagues, and so I met with them at the Old Gin House. We didn't eat because I don't eat out. And Madam Speaker, I told them that while I could appreciate if they were invited in to mediate, I wouldn't object to it. But are we so stupid on station that we run our secondary education all these decades? From in the days of Woodley, who had the vision, Austin Woodley, who had the vision to introduce that with people like Olive Burkle and others who was involved. And we run it to the point, Madam Speaker, where we have grown. We have sent out any amount of students to the highest level. Many of them came back and in serving in different capacities in this country. And I remember one of the questions that they asked me, if we had qualified people to serve on the school board, if we had qualified people to handle the management of the school, and I wouldn't use the word that I used to them because this is the holy place. But I was very angry. I told them I felt insulted, Madam Speaker, with a question like that, because we run it all the years. So why we can't run it now? So again, I'm saying that I respect anybody, any faction, any individual member of the council to do as they please. But sometimes when I bring things in here, they vex like hell because they feel that you shouldn't talk, you shouldn't bring points forward. But Speaker, like me or hate me, I am consistent and I have a vision. And so the PLP, recognizing, Madam Speaker, that we don't get out of this thing because it is might override. Already we made the decision, and I think with you in the good graces of your office as governor of this country, already signed, so that the process would start with the attorney, because we are going to take a court injunction. And I told Oleana, I told Rosenmuller, we told the people that came in the committee, wherever I went, whichever media house I spoke to regarding this point, we are going to take them to court. So, Madam Speaker, I believe that this motion is superfluous. I told colleague Schmidt that if he chooses to speak it and to vote for it, may God bless him this holiday season and beyond. But, Madam Speaker, out of principle and with regards to consistency, I cannot and I will not vote for this motion. May it please you, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Clive Van Putten. I look to Commissioner. Do you have any words on this agenda point regarding education and the motion which calls for an investigation by the Ombudsman, Kinder Ombudsman? Do you have any? I see you take the floor. Commissioner Ruben Merkman, Portfolio Holder Education. You may address the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. When I saw the motion, I looked at it and I said, well, let's see what happens, let's see what comes out of this, because since we have had so many meetings as the Executive Council and as Commissioner relating to the school board and the GVP school, that, and I think I have told the school board in no uncertain terms that the confidence, or whatever confidence I had in them, I have lost it in the school board. That was in our last meeting, where they accused me of favoring with the union. The school board accused me of that. They told me that I am in league with the union. And as commissioner, and it doesn't matter what anybody say, as commissioner, I have kept myself as neutral as possible in this whole affair. Because for me, what is important is the students. Whatever it is that is in the best interest of the students, that's what is my priority. And so I told the chair lady at the time, thank you for that statement, because then I know that what I was trying to achieve, I did that. Because I'm being accused by both parties of being in favor of the other party. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. You know, so, and I've told the school board at that time, I have never criticized you all publicly. But that is changed, that has changed. For me, personally, and I've told OCV that in the same meeting, I have no desire to meet with the representative of OCV for secondary education or, yes, secondary education in the Caribbean Netherlands because I find her biased. I find that person very biased because in a meeting, anytime we want to have a meeting with her, something is always up with her, or she canceling, or she got to go. You know, so it shows me that she doesn't really have the interest of the station children at heart. And I told, the whole executive council is also on record as participating that to OCV. And that was at a time when they came and they introduced Paul Rosemiller and Nolly Oliana to the executive council. And I know Paul very good. I think Paul is a good guy, and that's what I told him. But Paul, I wish you luck in working with that school board that you got. Because my opinion is they don't know what they're doing. The school board doesn't know what they're doing. You're going to bring in somebody like I ain't going to get in that of calling people names. But one of the persons that they brought in, they had already bring them in to mediate. And then the same person you're going to bring back and put them on the school board to say this person is capable of being unbiased in his actions. For me, that doesn't hold water. And that's what I told them in no uncertain terms. To get back to the motion, I think the motion is an excellent idea. And with all motions that have come in here relating to the GVP school, I've supported that. And it has my complete support. And whatever comes out of it, once it's within my hudanity, within my responsibilities, I intend to do that with all motions that are brought into this this forum. So I look forward to carrying out the motion. I think one of the things that, since we do not have the capacity to carry out many of the things that are in this motion, the time frame could be a little critical because you're speaking about the end of January. So we would need to hire somebody from, we will put it out and see if we can get somebody locally. That would be our preference. But I believe that we would have to possibly look overseas to hire somebody to carry out this research.
I think if I read the motion clearly, it's not really asking the Executive Council to do that much otherwise than to...
Point 2.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
You see, the Ombudsman, yeah.
Point 2 indicates that we have a couple of actions that we need to look at.
Yeah.
And most of it doesn't fall within our realm. We have to get the cooperation from other individuals involved also. And at this time, I think when I was on the plane to the Netherlands, a gentleman came up to me and he introduced himself, which is the change manager. I spoke to him and I said, you sound like you have good intentions, but I wish you good luck with the school board because I dealt with them and I didn't find them trustworthy. That's exactly what I told him. And now I'm learning that this same change manager have never met the principal. So if he's introducing all the changes and the principal is not there, when the principal comes, how is she going to know what changes have been made? So, and OCV is for me, OCV is in the cahoots with the school board. Because you told us the report was going to be finished in October, November, and now we're in December, and still nobody has gotten the report. So, I mean, it's a tangled web, and I've always learned in school what a web we weave when we want to deceive. And I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Ruben Merkman. Members of the Island Council, is there a need for a second round, or should we go over, with your permission, to voting on this motion, which is the motion refocusing on the well-being and rights of our secondary education students? Second round. Mr. Smith? Ms. Spanner Lopes? Mr. Van Putten? We go into a second round, and I give you the floor as the presenter of this motion, Council Lady Raquel Spanner Carty.
As we are so often reminded, we are here not for ourselves, but for the community. And therefore I feel the need to respond rather than indulge. Consistency has always been what I have stood for. I remember our last meeting, or one of our last meetings regarding this topic in the library. I mentioned my dissatisfaction with the feeling that the focus is being shifted from who has power, who has the right, and who can do what, rather than our students. I remember then that Councilman Smith used this very word and said, I have been consistent in this point, and he feels the need to stress that he too is putting the needs of our children first. So, for those listening, because some of us does work even when there are no cameras and the community can't hear us. The motion presented right now is different than firing a school board or arguing whether it's a public school or private school. Those of you that do pay attention should hear the difference. This has nothing to do with those up top. This has to do with those that we may have overlooked or forgotten, who don't have a voice, which is our students. You know what I find a pity, Madam Chair? And we were just speaking about increasing the seats. And I find it a pity that your level of comprehension is not a requirement to take a seat in the council. When speaking of consistency and doing it for the people, we must always do it outside of the public eye as well. Emotional arguments and fights don't make you right. Loud is not the equivalent of right. You know, in here, I am determined to save my energy to do something for our people. And in here, I vow that as long as I'm here, the way seats have been rumored to have been gained in dubious fashions won't work with me. I won't be bullied and I won't be intimidated. The people of Statia for whom we perform will be the judge of the intent behind every action that I take, because I too am an elected official. And I will remain consistent despite anyone's opinion, and despite the need for that vote to support, the people of Statia, just as always, will be the judge of consistency. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council Lady Raquel Spanner-Carty. Council Lady Mercedes Lopes-Spanner, you may speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield my time.
Thank you, Council Lady Mercedes Lopes-Spanner. Councilman Glenville Schmidt, you may address the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield my time.
Thank you, Councilman Schmidt. Councilman Clyde Van Putten, you may speak.
Madam Speaker, I do not wish to use my experience in my seniority to exploit the ignorance and the youthfulness of those who pretend to defend the interests of the people. Indeed, comprehension is very important. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, is competence. And whether it is loud, or there's cameras or no cameras, Madam Speaker, the fact that the people in this country continue to return me to this council, despite efforts internally as well as externally to kill me politically, the people brought me back. And if I run again, they will bring me back. Because I have been consistent and I defend them. When it's wrong, I say it's wrong. And when it is right, Madam Speaker, I stand for the right. The motions that we presented, they are clear. On camera or off camera, the people hear it. We do call on the government to do something, but I'm hearing the commissioner talk about his meetings, and but he said, I don't know, I haven't heard it. I said what I said based on what I know. And our intention, Madam Speaker, was always with the interests of the people at heart. I don't have any desire to be at the school board. I don't have anybody working as a teacher or a board member, because my dear wife, she's working at the SDA school, and now my daughter has joined the faculty since during the past school year. But even if I got to criticize them, Madam Speaker, I will do so. I will do so. But again, I'm saying, the very same opposition leader, Madam Speaker, was in the room on the side, in the left wing. And when the motion was being discussed, she made her contribution. Take out this, put in that. And when it comes to voting with a phone call, 360-degree about turn. And she said she can't vote for the motion, and she votes against it. And it is all right. But we didn't have a comprehension issue because she was a part of it. But a competence, Madam Speaker, in the cojones to stand up and to call sin by name, even when our own partisan affiliation was involved. We presented also an island ordinance pertaining to education that will empower government to act. That too, Madam Speaker, the opposition voted against. So was it competence or was it comprehension? Or was it competence, comprehension, or incompetence? The people is watching. The people is watching. And it's one thing, Madam Speaker, 4 years, I keep contact with the people. Not only during the election time, I run from house to house, and I go here and there. No, no, no. No, no, no. 4 years, Madam Speaker, I always remain with the people. In the good times and in the bad times, I am there with the people because I'm representing the people. So when I come in here, Madam Speaker, and I speak, it is based on what I know and the contact that I have with the people. When this council came into being almost 3 years ago, I said to the government then, at the Lions Den, The two commissioners was Merkman and Miss Spanner Schmidt. I think, yes, Spanner Schmidt. I said I would hold the government feet to the fire, even though they're coming from the same party that I am a part of and that I support them. And Madam Speaker, at times they may be angry, but Madam Speaker, if my wife was here, I would do the same to her. And if I was sitting on a chair for commissioner, I would expect the Island Council to do the same to me. When it comes around representing the interests of the people, I don't look at party, I don't look at friendship, and I don't look at family. My vote, Madam Speaker, in the Island Council is sacred. It is sacred. And whether they like it or not, Madam Speaker, I will speak until this stammering tongue of mine is silenced in death. I don't need to be on an Island Council because I have been here a long time. The people have been faithful. Faithful in all things, Madam Speaker, because I dare to stand up and defend their interests. But competence and comprehension and cameras and non-cameras, Madam Speaker, I get cameras all over the world. I mean, people call me all the time. Sometimes I don't even know who the media are. And sometimes I refuse to talk with them. I don't need a mic, I don't need a camera to represent my people. And if one of my supporters is caught in doing something that I perceive is not in the general interest of the country, or even if it's family, I dare to call it out. I have never, and I know there's a lot of people, maybe even within my own ranks, because I learned that they're saying that I am a dictator, and I this, and I that, and I the other. And you see, one of the things that I love is that, you know, people, some people judge you when it is not convenient to them. And I have said, Clive Mbutton is going to win elections. But when election is over, he have nothing to say. He don't have a seat at the table. And so if they could bar me from coming in here, or wherever you choose to keep your meeting, they would stop me, but the people brought me here. And as long as the people give me that support, as long as I have health and strength, and I hope always that they could count on the support of the two deputies in the faction, we will stand, we will make a difference, Madam Speaker. We don't always agree, but we meet and we discuss, because we have, Madam Speaker, a covenant with the people. You don't go on a campaign and you tell the people one thing and then you do something different. A lot of them just wonder how Clyde does get all of these votes. And you know the good thing, I share votes too. I tell them vote for this, I give proxy to this and blah blah, but it's not about me, because I love my party and I love my country. But I am very cognizant that, Madam Speaker,
Mr. Van Putten, I want to caution you about your proxy sharing and
But if I get the proxy from you and I give it to somebody, it's not sharing. I give it, I choose to give a proxy, to give a proxy to anything. But the bottom line, well, the Dutch accused the PLP some years ago of buying proxy and all whatnot. But it's a reality that I have given support. I have advised people to give support to different candidates over the years. But Speaker, when you talk what they want you to talk, it is good. But when you don't talk, or when you talk what they don't want you to talk, then they become upset. But nobody controls Clive Mbutton. The people in this country determines my future. God, of course, and then the people. So again, I'm saying the leader of the opposition could rant and rage, but put my record in this 4 years. I ain't talking about the other period. Put my record as a majority leader in this council, as a member in this council, against her record, as the leader of the opposition, a member of the Island Council, and Madam Speaker, it is clear like day and night. And yes, in the election, if I don't run and I'm still alive, I will be active. I'm going to support the side. And the people would have the opportunity, Speaker, to determine who did the bidding. Who did the bidding? Because if we go up in the street and speak to some of their own supporters, Madam Speaker, if you speak to some of their own supporters, they ain't happy. But I understand election is around the corner. And we know there have been shifting of the chairs, and I know what's going on in this country. I know all the tricks were going on. But I am not daunted, because I went through these kind of battles before. My political arbitrary, Madam Speaker, was written 1,000,000 times. But the people proved them wrong then, and if I win again, they would prove them wrong, because I stand up for the people in the good times and in the bad times. And as I said before, I consider this motion political mongering. I consider it superfluous, and there is no way under the heavens that I would support. And may I ask, Madam Speaker, that when it comes to the voting, hope the liquor stemming, I ain't in this acclamation business with this. Let us vote so that this island nation in the world that is watching would see that Clyde Van Button, love him or hate him, that he is consistent. And I say in advance, when it comes, I would vote against it, because it is deceptive and it is hypocritical. And above all, it is for political motivation, and I will vote against it.
Thank you, Councilman Van Putten. I now move towards the voting on the motion entitled Refocusing on the Well-Being and Rights of Our Secondary Education Students. Motion brought forward by the Democratic Party faction. I give faction leader Raquel Spanner-Carty the opportunity to express her vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I vote for.
Thank you, Council Lady Spanner-Carty. Council Lady Lopes-Spanner, please express your vote.
Madam Chair, I support this motion because our secondary school students are at a critical stage of development. Their academic success indirectly linked to their mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Refocusing on their rights ensures that students are not only educated, but also protected, heard, and supported in a safe and inclusive learning environment. I vote for.
Thank you, Council Lady Spanner. Lopes-Spanner. Councilman Glenville Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I vote for the motion.
Thank you, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. Councilman Clyde Van Putten, you may express your vote.
Mr. Speaker, I vote against this motion, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I herewith would like to announce that the motion refocusing on the well-being and rights of our secondary education students is carried by a majority 3-4-1 against. Herewith carried. We arrive at agenda point 8, which regards announcements by the executive and commissioners and the Island Governor in accordance to Articles 49 and 50 of the regulation of the Island Council. Any announcements on your part, commissioners?
Since this will be our last meeting, we're hoping not, that we can get next meeting to finalize the budget. But if this is the last meeting, we would like to wish the community a safe and happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Reshelin Leerdam. Commissioner.
Yes, I would also like to take the opportunity to wish all my colleagues a happy, and I would also like to wish all the council members and all members in this honorable house, the supporting cast, a healthy season. You know, in life sometimes everybody need help. So We're not an island unto ourselves. That's one thing we always have to remember. We're not an island unto yourselves. You can't operate by yourself. You need people to survive. So I wish everybody that, and good luck. If I'm not back in this hall, it's fine too. You know, I've survived by myself before. So, you know, that's the way it is. That's the way the ball bounces. So that's all right.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruben Merkman. I would like to announce that I did receive notice through the Registrar's Office that Councilman Simmons did notify that he would not be at this meeting. However, I received it after the agenda point announcements. So I want to be noted that he is here. He's not here, but he did give notice. I want to use this opportunity to extend thanks and appreciation to the civil service here and those who we work with in the ministries in The Hague throughout the past year. I want to thank the members of this august body for many spirited discussions that led to important decision makings. We are spirited, but at the end of the day, the majority of the times, I would say, we make the decisions that are in the best interest of this island. I would like to thank the community for keeping both the executive and the legislative branch of government, keeping us sharp and to the point. Particular thanks and appreciation to the Office of the Island Registrar and the Island Secretary, who are the engines that keep government operational in accordance to established laws, rules, and regulations. At this time, I would like to, on behalf of the executive branch and myself, express condolences to the Duggins and David Roseberg and extended families for the loss of teacher Laverne Duggins David. The deceased at one point did work in local government as an executive assistant to former Commissioner Roy Hooker. We share in your loss at this time, and she has worked also in government in the Department of Education, and before the transition, she was a teacher at the public school of the Governor de Graaf School as a special education teacher. I want to also announce that the Island Council goes on recess as of tomorrow, December 19th until January 9th, unless there's an emergency. We do know that today we had a vote in a tie, but I would like to, in advance, through the Registrar's Office, if there's a response from the CFT on time and we have a majority, that we can meet on the budget amendment just in case. And the recess of the Executive Council is December 22nd until January 12th. So at this time, I would like to thank everyone, and also our Government Information Service, as well as our sound technician. Thank you all, and may God continue to bless us all and to bless our Statia community. Enjoy the Christmas holiday, and when the new year comes around, may it be a blessed and prosperous one for us all. We will now stand and address the final agenda point, which is the closing of our meeting, and we will pay our full respect to the local anthem, the Golden Rock Song. This meeting is herewith officially closed.